The
King as
parade route
guard
looks secure
explodes
from
in
this
police
vantage
step,
point.
and when man did
Agreed.
this. Horse
We should be
guards,
clear for the
royal
afternoon
guard,
shift.
king's guard. Sunlight gleamed off the red tunics of the king's guard, reflecting on the polished buttons and the tall black bearskin hats that made the guards look both majestic and intimidating. It was a day like many others, with tourists streaming in from all over the world to witness the famous ceremony that had been a symbol of British tradition for centuries. Children tugged at their parents' hands, pointing excitedly at the guards, while photographers jostled for the best view. The sound of cameras clicking and murmurs of admiration filled the air, creating a lively, almost festive atmosphere. The royal guards, known for their unshakable discipline and precise movements, marched with a steady rhythm, their boots thudding on the cobblestone ground. Their faces were calm and expressionless, as if nothing could disturb their focus. To the untrained eye, it seemed as though time slowed down whenever the guards moved, each step deliberate, each turn flawless. Tourists often wondered if the guards were real people or statues brought to life for the spectacle. They were an enduring symbol of loyalty, strength, and order. Among the crowd, a man stood a little apart from the others. Unlike most tourists who were laughing, chatting, or taking photos, he seemed tense, almost restless. His eyes darted around, observing not the beauty of the ceremony, but the people around him and the guards themselves. He shifted from foot to foot, occasionally glancing down at a small device he kept hidden in his pocket. While no one could have known what he was thinking, his unusual behavior caught the attention of a nearby police officer. The officer's experience told him that something about the man was off, though there was no immediate reason to confront him. After all, this was a place visited by thousands every day, and most people simply enjoyed the ceremony peacefully. The parade ground was wide, giving everyone plenty of space to watch. Families strolled leisurely, school groups gathered in neat lines, and tourists snapped countless photos. The man, however, seemed almost out of place. He kept his distance from the main crowd, standing near a corner where the guards' movements could be easily observed. He looked down at the device again, as if planning or rehearsing something. There was a tension about him that contrasted sharply with the calm, orderly scene around him. The royal guards continued their march, oblivious to the growing unease just a few feet away. Their movements were synchronized perfectly. The click of their boots against the cobblestones and the rustle of their tunics in the wind created a rhythmic cadence that had been practiced over countless hours of training. Tourists clapped politely at the impressive display, and children tried to mimic the soldiers' precise steps, giggling when they failed. The man, however, seemed unmoved by the ceremony. His eyes remained fixed on the guards, analyzing every detail of their stance, every shift of their weight. Nearby, the police maintained a discreet watch over the crowd. Officers were stationed at various points, blending in with the people while keeping a careful eye on everything happening around them. They had dealt with many situations in the past, lost children, petty thefts, and minor disturbances, but nothing had prepared them for what was about to happen. Yet, at this moment, everything seemed normal. The sun continued to shine, the guards marched with their usual precision, and the crowd remained unaware of the brewing danger. The man's behavior became slightly more noticeable as he adjusted his coat and shifted his gaze between the crowd and the guards. He seemed to be calculating something, though no one around him could guess what. Occasionally, he would glance at the security officers, measuring their distance, as if testing their attentiveness. It was a quiet tension, one that could have been missed if not for the experienced eyes of the police officer who had first noticed him. As the ceremony reached one of its routine highlights, the guards performed a particularly intricate drill, turning and marching in perfect unison. Tourists cheered and clapped, impressed by the skill and precision. Children waved excitedly, and many adults held their cameras high to capture the moment. The man, however, remained focused, almost robotic in his attention. He did not clap, cheer, or smile. Instead, he shifted his weight from one foot to the other and tightened his grip on the hidden device. Despite his anxious energy, no one suspected that anything was wrong. After all, this was a public place, and the majority of visitors were here to enjoy the historical spectacle. London had long been a city of tourists and traditions, where the King's Guard stood as a proud symbol of continuity and heritage. People trusted the safety of the area, assuming that centuries of protocol and police presence meant that nothing could go terribly wrong. Meanwhile, the man's presence created a subtle ripple of unease that only the police noticed. They observed him discreetly, following his movements without alarming the crowd. The officers were trained to identify unusual behavior, and this man fit the profile of someone who could cause trouble. Yet, without concrete evidence, they had to remain cautious. Approaching him too soon might trigger a reaction they could not control. So, they continued their careful watch, hoping to prevent any harm before it occurred. As the ceremony continued, the sun climbed higher in the sky, casting long shadows across the parade ground. The guards' uniforms gleamed, their polished boots reflecting the light. The crowd remained engrossed in the spectacle, capturing every moment on cameras and phones. Little did anyone realize that the calm, bright morning was only a fragile illusion, a temporary peace before an unexpected event would shatter it. In the crowd, the man adjusted his position once more, moving closer to the guards while keeping his movements subtle. He watched their every step, noting the pattern of their march, the timing of their turns, and the way they responded to each other's movements. For him, this was not a day of sightseeing. It was a day of preparation, and every glance and step was calculated. He seemed to blend in with the crowd at first glance, but his focus set him apart from the tourists who were there to marvel at tradition and pageantry. The tension in the air was invisible, but it existed. The police officers felt it in their training, the small warning signals that alerted them when something was amiss. They were ready to act, but for now, they had to observe. The crowd, oblivious, continued to watch the ceremony with awe and delight, capturing images that would later become cherished memories. Children laughed, couples smiled, and visitors from around the world admired the proud display of heritage. At that moment, everything seemed ordinary. The King's Guard moved with their usual precision, the crowd remained engaged, and the sun shone down on the historic parade ground. But under the surface, a plan was quietly unfolding, a plan that could have disrupted centuries of tradition and endangered many lives. Only a few eyes were aware of the danger lurking in the midst of the excitement, and those few were the ones who would soon face the challenge of preventing disaster. The man's gaze never wavered. He studied the movements of the guards as if memorizing a pattern, noting the smallest details of their routine. The police observed him, waiting for the right moment to intervene, knowing that any sudden move could escalate the situation. Around them, the world carried on as usual, unaware of the tension building in the corner of the parade ground. As part one of the story concludes, the stage is set. The Horse Guards parade remains a symbol of tradition, precision, and pride. The crowd is immersed in the spectacle, the guards continue their drills flawlessly, and the sun casts its golden light over the scene. Yet, lurking among the crowd is a man whose intentions remain a mystery. A quiet tension exists, a silent warning that something is about to disrupt the calm. The audience can feel the suspense building, knowing that the ordinary day at the Horse Guards parade is about to change forever. The atmosphere at Horse Guards parade had changed in ways the tourists did not notice yet. Everything still looked ordinary. The royal guards marched with their usual precision, children pointed excitedly, and cameras clicked incessantly. But behind the cheerful scenes, tension was quietly rising. The man who had been lingering at the corner of the parade ground now moved slightly closer to the line of guards. He seemed to measure every step, every turn, and every pause the soldiers made. Although no one in the crowd could see it, the police officers were watching him carefully. Their training had taught them to notice unusual behavior in a sea of ordinary actions. This man's subtle movements and focused attention were enough to raise alarm bells in their minds. They stayed close, blending into the crowd, ready to act if necessary, but hoping the situation could be resolved quietly. Meanwhile, the royal guards continued their ceremonial routine. Their boots struck the cobblestones in unison, a rhythmic sound that echoed across the parade ground. Their eyes, usually emotionless, scanned the area constantly, though their focus was primarily on their formations. The precision in their movements was remarkable, a result of years of practice and unwavering discipline. Tourists admired the beauty of the spectacle, clapping politely, cheering quietly, and taking photos. They had no idea that a quiet danger was moving among them. The man paused for a moment, looking at the guards' formation from different angles. He seemed to be calculating something, but the details of his plan remained hidden, even to the police who were observing him. He adjusted the small device in his pocket and shifted his stance, trying to remain unnoticed. Most people nearby only saw a slightly fidgety man in the crowd. But for the officers, every subtle movement told a story of someone who could cause serious disruption if not intercepted in time. Suddenly, the crowd's attention shifted. A group of tourists had gathered near the front, laughing and talking as they tried to get a better view of the guards. Children pointed and waved, couples posed for pictures, and photographers jostled gently for a clear shot. In the middle of all this, the man took a step forward, his eyes fixed on the nearest soldier. The police officers tensed. They communicated silently with hand signals, preparing to move if necessary. Every second counted, but they had to be careful not to cause panic among the crowd. The royal guards were unaware of the growing tension nearby. Their focus remained entirely on their drill, and they continued their march with the same unwavering discipline. The soldiers' faces, expressionless as always, showed no hint of fear or anticipation. To the tourists, the ceremony seemed flawless, just as it had been every other day. The rhythm of their boots hitting the ground, the careful turns, and the precise salutes created a sense of order and beauty that was almost hypnotic. But then something unexpected happened. The man, perhaps frustrated or nervous, fumbled slightly with the device he had been holding. It was small, but the movement caught the attention of a nearby officer. That small action triggered a chain reaction in the minds of the security team. They recognized it as a sign that immediate intervention might soon be necessary. Their eyes locked on the man, analyzing his every move, ready to act the instant he made any sudden attempt to step closer to the guards. At the same time, the man glanced around, scanning the crowd for witnesses. He seemed uncertain for a brief moment, as if debating whether to continue his actions or retreat. This hesitation gave the officers a crucial advantage. They quietly moved closer, keeping their approach hidden from both the man and the crowd. Every step was calculated. They had to prevent any sudden reaction that could put the guards or the tourists at risk. The crowd remained oblivious. People continued taking photographs and videos, unaware that the situation was becoming tense just meters away from them. Children laughed as they tried to imitate the soldiers' movements, copying the rhythm of their march. Parents smiled, proud of their children's enthusiasm, completely unaware that a potentially dangerous situation was unfolding nearby. The contrast between the carefree joy of the crowd and the quiet tension of the police created a scene filled with suspense. Then, without warning, the man suddenly froze. Something in his mind seemed to shift, and he hesitated, holding the device tightly. The officers noticed immediately. They exchanged subtle signals, confirming that the man's behavior had escalated to a point where intervention was necessary. Their training kicked in fully now. They were ready to act swiftly, yet cautiously, to prevent any harm to the guards or the bystanders. The royal guards continued their march, their movements flawless and rhythmic. They were still unaware of the danger, focused entirely on the ceremony. Their precision made them appear almost like living statues, statues that moved with perfect synchronization and unwavering calm. This calm contrasted sharply with the nervous energy of the man nearby and the heightened alertness of the police officers. The tension in the air became almost tangible, though invisible to anyone not paying close attention. As the man shifted again, attempting to step closer, a police officer decided it was time to intervene. A few officers subtly moved around him, creating a barrier without alarming the crowd. Their approach was careful and deliberate. Every motion was planned to prevent panic. In moments like this, timing was critical. One wrong move could cause chaos among the tourists or provoke the man into making a dangerous decision. The crowd, however, remained completely absorbed in the ceremony. Tourists clapped as the guards executed a complex turn, children waved enthusiastically, and the rhythmic sound of boots striking the cobblestones continued. The contrast between the calm of the crowd and the silent tension of the security team created an invisible layer of suspense. The audience might have felt the ordinary excitement of the parade, unaware that the ordinary day was quietly transforming into something extraordinary. The man paused again, glancing at the police officers now. He realized, perhaps too late, that he was being observed closely. His hesitation increased, and his movements became slightly erratic. He fumbled once more with the device, and at that moment the officers acted. They moved quickly, surrounding him and securing him without causing alarm to the crowd. Their swift action prevented any escalation, and the man was restrained safely and quietly. The tension melted almost immediately after the officers secured him. The royal guards continued their march as if nothing had happened, maintaining their discipline and focus. The crowd remained unaware of the danger they had just passed. Only the officers knew how close the situation had come to becoming serious. The contrast between the calm ceremony and the potential danger highlighted the vigilance and skill required to protect public spaces, even in seemingly peaceful settings. As the man was led away, the crowd slowly began to notice subtle signs that something unusual had occurred. Some people whispered to each other, curious about the officer's sudden movements. Tourists snapped a few more pictures, still captivated by the guards, while children continued to play and imitate the soldiers. Life at the parade ground returned quickly to its normal rhythm, yet the officers remained alert, knowing that even a single moment of distraction could allow danger to arise again. The event left an invisible mark on the parade ground. For those who had witnessed it, even unknowingly, there was a sense of relief and gratitude. The royal guards maintained their composure, and the public remained safe, thanks to the quick thinking and careful action of the police officers. Behind the scenes, a plan had been quietly stopped before it could cause harm, proving the importance of vigilance, training, and calm judgment in the face of uncertainty. As Part 2 comes to a close, the scene returns to normal outward appearances, but the story behind it carries lessons of preparation, awareness, and the quiet heroism of those who work to protect public safety. The royal guards march on, their tradition undisturbed, while the crowd continues to enjoy a seemingly ordinary day at one of London's most historic locations. After the man was quietly taken away by the police, the atmosphere at Horse Guards Parade slowly began to return to normal, or at least what appeared to be normal. The tourists, still excited by the spectacle of the royal guards, noticed only minor movements from the officers and assumed it was part of standard security. Most did not realize how close they had been to a potentially serious incident. The guards themselves continued their precise drills, their faces still calm and expressionless, as if nothing had occurred at all. But behind the scenes, a flurry of activity was unfolding. The officers who had restrained the man were immediately communicating with their colleagues, providing details about what had just happened. They worked quickly, analyzing the device he had been carrying, making sure it could not cause harm to anyone else. Specialists were called in to examine it carefully. Their goal was not just to prevent an immediate danger, but also to understand the potential risks and ensure that no similar situations could arise in the future. Meanwhile, the parade ground, once full of tension, began to fill with a sense of relief. Tourists continued to watch the ceremony, clapping and taking photos, completely unaware of the drama that had almost unfolded nearby. Children waved excitedly at the guards, imitating their disciplined movements with joyful enthusiasm. Families laughed and posed for pictures, enjoying the pageantry that London had offered for centuries. To the casual observer, the day was ordinary, bright, and cheerful. However, for the police officers and security teams, the day had become anything but ordinary. They carefully documented the man's actions, noting every detail that could help them understand why he had been acting suspiciously. Every angle, every movement, every hesitation was recorded and analyzed. The officers knew that understanding the situation fully was crucial, not just for immediate safety, but for preventing any future incidents. It was a reminder that public spaces, even those steeped in tradition, required constant vigilance. The man, now in custody, was escorted to a secure area where investigators began questioning him. They discovered that he had been planning his actions for some time. He had studied the Royal Guard's routines, memorized their drills, and chosen a day when the parade would be most crowded. His focus on the Guard's movements had been deliberate, aimed at finding a way to disrupt the ceremony. Fortunately, the police officers, careful observation and quick response had prevented any harm from occurring. The investigation revealed more than just the man's intentions. Officers discovered that he had a fascination with historical events and public ceremonies, but his interest had turned into obsession. He had spent hours online, learning about the parade's schedule, the guards, routines, and the exact timing of every movement. While most people study history for enjoyment or education, he had been using that knowledge in ways that were unsafe and inappropriate. The officers realized that such obsession, if left unchecked, could have led to serious consequences. Back on the parade ground, the Royal Guards continued their ceremonial duties as if nothing had happened. Their training had prepared them for maintaining focus under pressure, and they executed every movement with flawless precision. The rhythmic sound of boots striking the cobblestones filled the air, blending with the whispers and laughter of the crowd. For the tourists, it was a day of wonder, a chance to witness a living tradition in one of London's most historic locations. Security teams, however, remained alert. Officers patrolled discreetly, scanning the crowd and watching for any unusual behavior. They knew that the incident had been a reminder of how quickly ordinary events could become unpredictable. Even though the immediate threat had been neutralized, the potential for future disruptions remained. The officers' vigilance created an invisible layer of safety that allowed the ceremony to continue without interruption, ensuring that the public could enjoy the event without realizing the hidden risks. The media soon caught wind of the incident. News outlets carefully reported the story, emphasizing that no one had been harmed and that the Royal Guards had continued their duties without interruption. Headlines highlighted the quick actions of the police officers and the importance of their vigilance. The public was reassured that safety measures were in place, and that even when unusual situations arose, trained professionals could handle them effectively. Despite the media attention, many tourists remained focused on the pageantry. They were captivated by the precision of the guards, the bright colors of their uniforms, and the historic atmosphere of the parade ground. Some visitors, unaware of the near incident, commented on the impressive discipline of the soldiers, noting how even the smallest details seemed perfectly choreographed. Children continued to imitate the soldiers' steps, laughing as they tried to march in unison, while parents encouraged their curiosity and excitement. Meanwhile, the investigation into the man continued. Officers discovered that he had not intended to cause physical harm, but his actions had been risky and disruptive. The device he carried was small and could have caused panic if mishandled, and his proximity to the guards and the public created an unsafe situation. Through careful questioning and analysis, the authorities worked to understand the full scope of his behavior, aiming to prevent similar occurrences in the future. The royal guards themselves remained symbols of composure and discipline throughout the ordeal. Their ability to maintain focus, even when potential threats arose nearby, demonstrated the strength of their training and their dedication to duty. Tourists, unaware of the hidden drama, continued to be impressed by the soldiers' unwavering calm, noting how the ceremony seemed almost timeless in its perfection. As the day progressed, security teams reviewed every detail of the incident, ensuring that no lessons were overlooked. Officers discussed how the man's behavior had been identified early, how their subtle intervention had prevented escalation, and how coordination between different units had ensured a smooth resolution. The event became a case study in vigilance, preparation, and the importance of maintaining calm under pressure. At the same time, the crowd's enjoyment of the parade provided a stark contrast to the behind-the-scenes activity. People continued to take photographs, record videos, and share their experiences on social media. Children laughed and clapped, couples posed for pictures, and tourists marveled at the historic surroundings. To them, it was a perfect day in London, filled with tradition, history, and excitement. The contrast between the outward appearance of calm and the hidden vigilance of the authorities highlighted the quiet heroism of those working behind the scenes. By the afternoon, the incident had been fully contained. The man remained in custody, the device had been safely examined, and the royal guards continued their ceremonial duties without interruption. The police officers received commendations for their quick thinking and careful execution, recognizing the importance of their role in protecting both the guards and the public. Their actions reinforced the lesson that vigilance, preparation, and calm judgment could prevent potential danger from becoming real harm. Even after the immediate situation was resolved, the day at Horse Guards Parade remained memorable for those who witnessed it. Tourists left with images and memories of the impressive ceremony, the colorful uniforms, and the disciplined soldiers. The quiet tension and careful intervention by the police officers went largely unnoticed, but it was a crucial part of the story. Behind the scenes, trained professionals ensured that the event could continue safely, preserving the tradition and history that make the parade such a unique and cherished experience. As Part 3 concludes, the story demonstrates the delicate balance between tradition, public safety, and vigilance. The royal guard's composure, the crowd's enjoyment, and the police officers' quick actions combined to prevent a potential crisis. It was a reminder that even in moments of beauty and celebration, preparation and awareness remain essential. The parade continued, the tourists remained engaged, and the royal guards marched on, maintaining the discipline and focus that had made them iconic for centuries. The story, however, was far from over, as the investigation would continue, and the lessons learned from this event would influence future safety measures and public awareness. After the immediate danger had passed, the focus shifted to understanding why the man had acted the way he did. Investigators worked tirelessly, piecing together the events of the morning. They carefully examined every detail, from the device the man had carried to the path he had taken through the crowd. Their goal was to ensure that nothing similar could happen again and to understand the full nature of his intentions. The man remained in a secure room, answering questions from trained professionals. He explained, hesitantly, that he had been fascinated by the royal guards and their long-standing traditions. What had started as curiosity had grown into a strong obsession. He had spent hours studying the parade online, learning every movement, every drill, and every timing detail. He had come prepared, believing that he could somehow test the guards or draw attention to himself. His fascination, however, had crossed a line into unsafe behavior. Investigators noted that, although the man had carried a small device, he had not intended to harm anyone physically. It was more of a tool to create disruption than destruction. Still, his actions were dangerous. The presence of the device and his proximity to both the guards and the tourists could have caused panic, injuries, or chaos. By stopping him in time, the officers had prevented a potential disaster. This realization underscored the importance of vigilance, even in places that seemed secure. As the investigation unfolded, authorities began to understand the man's motivations more clearly. He had no criminal record, but he had struggled with mental health issues for several years. His fascination with ceremonies and historical events had gradually intensified, and he had spent countless hours online researching the royal guards. Experts explained that his obsession had distorted his sense of right and wrong, leading him to act in ways that were unsafe for both himself and the public. The authorities also reviewed the security measures in place at the parade ground. They found that while the area had been secure, the incident highlighted potential gaps that could be improved. The positioning of officers, the visibility of surveillance equipment, and the response time to unusual behavior were all assessed carefully. Changes were planned to make the parade ground even safer for both the royal guards and the public. Meanwhile, news of the incident began to spread. Media outlets emphasized that no one had been hurt and praised the quick actions of the police officers. They highlighted the professionalism of the royal guards, who had continued their ceremonial duties without interruption, and the skill of the officers who had managed the situation calmly and effectively. Public reaction was one of relief, admiration, and gratitude. People were impressed by the way authorities had handled a potentially dangerous situation without alarming the crowd. The royal guards themselves were praised for their composure. Their training had prepared them to maintain focus in challenging situations, and they had performed flawlessly. Tourists continued to watch them with awe, unaware of the hidden tension that had passed just meters away. Children laughed and imitated the soldiers' steps, while adults captured photos and videos, delighted by the ceremony's beauty. The parade remained a symbol of discipline, tradition, and continuity, unaffected in its outward appearance by the incident. Behind the scenes, investigators continued their work. They interviewed the man, reviewed surveillance footage, and examined the device he had carried. Every step was documented to ensure a full understanding of the situation. The police worked closely with mental health experts, recognizing that the man's actions were influenced by his personal struggles. Their approach was careful, combining law enforcement with compassion, to address both the safety concerns and the underlying issues that had led to the incident. The investigation also revealed how quickly ordinary curiosity could evolve into unsafe behavior. The man's obsession with the royal guards had begun as harmless fascination, but had escalated over time. Authorities emphasized the importance of awareness and intervention when individuals displayed patterns of behavior that could pose a risk. Early intervention, combined with guidance from experts, could prevent incidents before they escalated into dangerous situations. While the investigation continued, security at all royal sites was reviewed and strengthened. Officers were repositioned to cover more areas, surveillance systems were upgraded, and communication protocols were improved. Training exercises were conducted to prepare for unusual situations, ensuring that officers could respond swiftly and effectively. The goal was to create an environment where visitors could enjoy the beauty and tradition of the parade safely, without fear or disruption. For the public, the incident became a story of heroism, preparedness, and calm judgment. Authorities demonstrated how quick thinking, observation, and training could prevent a situation from escalating. Citizens were reminded that even in places of history and tradition, vigilance was essential. The Royal Guard's composure, combined with the professionalism of the police, ensured that the parade could continue safely and that the public remained protected. At the same time, mental health experts worked with the man to provide guidance and support. They recognized that his obsession and behavior were linked to deeper personal struggles. Counseling sessions were arranged, and steps were taken to help him understand the consequences of his actions. The goal was not only to ensure public safety, but also to provide the man with an opportunity to address his challenges constructively, turning a dangerous situation into a chance for positive change. As the day went on, the parade continued without interruption. The royal guards maintained their precise movements, the tourists remained engaged, and the officers stayed vigilant. Children laughed, couples took photos, and visitors admired the tradition and beauty of the ceremony. The outward appearance of calm and order masked the intense activity and careful planning happening behind the scenes. In the weeks following the incident, authorities shared lessons learned from the event. Security measures were further improved. Officers were trained in identifying early signs of unusual behavior, and mental health awareness programs were introduced for both the public and law enforcement personnel. The incident became an important example of how preparation, observation, and quick action could prevent potential dangers and protect the public. For the Royal Guards, the experience reinforced the importance of discipline and focus. Their ability to remain composed under pressure was a reminder of the strength and resilience required for their role. Tourists, largely unaware of the incident, continued to admire the ceremony, appreciating the centuries-old tradition and the beauty of the parade. The Royal Guard's performance remained flawless, demonstrating that tradition and professionalism could endure even in the face of unexpected challenges. The story of the incident also highlighted the teamwork between different authorities. Police officers, investigators, mental health professionals, and the Royal Guards all worked together to manage the situation effectively. Their combined efforts ensured that the parade continued safely, that the man received appropriate guidance, and that lessons were learned for the future. It was an example of how coordination, training, and communication could prevent disruption and maintain public trust. As Part 4 comes to a close, the narrative emphasizes understanding, prevention, and resilience. The man's actions, though dangerous, led to important lessons for security, mental health, and public awareness. The Royal Guard's discipline, the police officers' vigilance, and the support from experts ensured that the situation was handled safely and constructively. The parade continued, maintaining its beauty, precision, and tradition, while authorities worked quietly to make the environment even safer. This part of the story reminds the audience that even when danger is present, careful observation, training, and understanding can prevent harm. It shows how curiosity can become dangerous if not managed properly, how teamwork can resolve complex situations, and how tradition and safety can coexist. The narrative prepares the stage for Part 5, where reflection, resolution, and the lasting impact of the incident will be explored, leaving readers with a sense of closure and understanding. As the days passed, the incident at Horse Guards Parade became a story that blended relief, reflection, and renewed respect for those who ensured public safety. The man who had caused the tension was now under care and observation, receiving guidance from mental health professionals. While he had not intended to harm anyone physically, his actions had highlighted the importance of vigilance, preparation, and awareness in public spaces. Authorities used the event as an opportunity to reinforce lessons for both themselves and the public. The royal guards resumed their ceremonial duties with their usual precision and discipline. Their movements remained flawless, their expressions calm, and their focus unwavering. Visitors returning to the parade ground noticed nothing unusual, and the vibrant atmosphere of tradition and history filled the area once again. Children waved and laughed, tourists clicked photographs, and the rhythmic sound of boots striking the cobblestones echoed through the parade, just as it always had. Behind the scenes, however, much had changed. Security protocols were updated to address potential vulnerabilities. Officers received additional training to identify unusual behavior and respond discreetly, yet effectively. Surveillance systems were improved, communication channels refined, and procedures rehearsed to ensure swift action if needed in the future. The incident had become a learning experience, strengthening the preparedness of all involved. The man himself was also undergoing a transformation. Through counseling and support, he began to understand the seriousness of his actions. He realized how curiosity had turned into obsession and how his choices could have endangered others. Mental health professionals guided him in channeling his interests in safer and constructive ways. The goal was not only to prevent repeat behavior, but also to help him grow personally, transforming a potentially harmful situation into an opportunity for rehabilitation and understanding. Meanwhile, the public began to hear the full story through carefully managed media reports. Headlines emphasized that no one had been hurt and highlighted the bravery and professionalism of the police officers who had acted calmly and effectively. The royal guards were praised for maintaining their composure, and the incident became a lesson in how vigilance, teamwork, and preparation could prevent harm. Citizens expressed admiration and gratitude for the efforts of law enforcement and the guards, recognizing the invisible work that often goes unnoticed. For many visitors, the parade remained a magical experience. Families enjoyed the historic spectacle, children mimicked the guards' movements with joy, and tourists marveled at the tradition preserved through centuries. The beauty of the ceremony, combined with the knowledge that safety had been ensured, gave people a renewed sense of appreciation for both the royal guards and the police officers who protect public events. The parade, in its outward appearance, continued as a symbol of calm, order, and history, while behind the scenes, lessons had been learned that would make the environment safer than ever. As the authorities reviewed the incident, they realized how small decisions and careful observation could prevent major problems. The officers' ability to notice subtle signs of unusual behavior, act decisively, and coordinate their response ensured that the day remained safe for everyone. The man's actions had been contained before they could escalate, demonstrating the critical importance of vigilance and preparation in public spaces. It was a lesson in responsibility, both for the authorities and for the community at large. The incident also sparked discussions about mental health awareness. Experts emphasized the need for understanding, support, and intervention when someone's fascination or curiosity begins to cross into risky behavior. Educational programs were developed to inform the public and law enforcement about recognizing early signs of unusual or potentially unsafe behavior. By addressing the underlying causes of incidents like this, authorities hope to prevent future situations and create a safer, more informed community. At the same time, The Royal Guards' dedication to their duties remained an inspiration. Their ability to maintain focus, composure, and professionalism, even when unexpected events occur, reminded everyone of the importance of discipline and training. Tourists and locals alike admired their unwavering calm, often commenting on how the guards seemed almost timeless, performing their ceremonial duties with precision and pride. The combination of tradition, skill, and calm vigilance had created an environment where history and public safety could coexist seamlessly. Families visiting the parade began to understand that the visible spectacle was only part of the story. Behind the scenes, officers, investigators, and experts worked tirelessly to maintain order and protect everyone present. The invisible layers of safety, combined with the visible beauty of the parade, created an experience that was both enjoyable and secure. People learned to appreciate not just the ceremony itself, but also the preparation, planning, and care that allowed it to proceed without interruption. The incident also reminded the public that curiosity and interest, while natural, needed guidance. The man's fascination with the royal guards had turned into risky behavior, but through proper support, he could redirect his passion in positive ways. This lesson resonated with families, educators, and young people, emphasizing the importance of channeling interests safely and constructively. Authorities encouraged open conversations about mental health, curiosity, and responsible behavior, creating a culture of understanding and awareness. As weeks turned into months, the parade ground at Horse Guards Parade returned fully to its normal rhythm. The Royal Guards marched with flawless precision, officers monitored the area discreetly, and tourists continued to enjoy the historic spectacle. The lessons learned from the incident had been incorporated into daily routines, ensuring that both tradition and safety were preserved. The experience had strengthened not only the security measures, but also the public's trust in the authorities responsible for maintaining order. Reflecting on the events, authorities recognized the importance of teamwork. Police officers, investigators, mental health professionals, and the Royal Guards had all contributed to preventing harm and ensuring a positive outcome. Their combined efforts demonstrated that preparation, vigilance, and calm judgment could prevent potential dangers from escalating. It was a story of cooperation, foresight, and professionalism that would be remembered as a model for handling unexpected situations in public spaces. For visitors who had been present during the incident, the day became a story to remember, not because of fear, but because of relief, appreciation, and admiration. They realized that the parade they enjoyed so much was safeguarded by the quiet efforts of professionals who ensured their safety. Children continued to imitate the guards, tourists shared photographs, and families laughed together, experiencing the blend of history, tradition, and security in perfect harmony. The man's journey, too, offered hope. With support and guidance, he was learning to understand the consequences of his actions and how to redirect his interests safely. His story became a reminder that even when mistakes occur, positive change and learning are possible. Authorities emphasized the importance of combining enforcement with education, showing that safety, understanding, and compassion could coexist. As the story drew to a close, Horse Guards Parade stood as a symbol of resilience. The Royal Guards marched with unwavering focus. The public enjoyed a safe and memorable experience, and authorities had strengthened the systems that protect both history and people. The incident, while potentially dangerous, ultimately became a story of vigilance, teamwork, learning, and reflection. It reinforced the value of preparation, discipline, and understanding in creating a safe and inspiring public space. In the end, the events at Horse Guards Parade were remembered not for what could have gone wrong, but for what had gone right. The professionalism of the police officers, the composure of the Royal Guards, and the lessons learned from the man's actions ensured that history, tradition, and safety continued hand in hand. Visitors left the parade ground with memories of a beautiful ceremony, a story of vigilance, and a renewed appreciation for the people who work quietly behind the scenes to protect them. The narrative, now complete, demonstrates the balance between tradition, curiosity, and safety. It emphasizes how preparation, calm judgment, and teamwork can turn a potentially risky situation into a story of learning and resilience. Horse Guards Parade continued its centuries-old tradition, now strengthened by lessons learned, and the quiet heroism of those who ensured that both the guards and the public remained safe. The day, once tense, became a lasting reminder that vigilance, discipline, and understanding create environments where history can be celebrated securely and peacefully.